Oh my god, Stranger Things is back, have you heard? It's the biggest moment in TV history. It's so epic sauce that Netflix apparently is preparing for an additional 30% server load and is pulling out all the stops to brace for the 20-sided dice multipliers of thirsty nostalgia fans feasting for Demogorgon orgies of historic proportions. Something feels off, doesn't it? The show that began as a relatively clever homage to horror and science fiction films of the 80s and 90s that blended the nostalgia with original ideas and became a household name, debuted on the mind flayer of streaming platforms nearly a decade ago. Since then, it's become its own cultural phenomenon, mutating from a beloved throwback to Egos into a weaponized way to market and sell them to generations of children longing for their sugary embrace. Now, household names like Eleven and Vecna will be themselves referenced in some future AI-generated slop program that tries to become the strangest things as we pour synthetic tears and long for a past when at least nostalgia porn was original, damn it. Or maybe it's the fact that Israel has been torturing and massacring and starving children to death for years, and not one but two of the main cast members think Zionism is sexy and have used their platforms to promote an ongoing genocide before the eyes of the world?
I saw nothing wrong with the original thing that he said. I will say that. I think, he held up a sticker saying Zionism is sexy, and he said Hamas is ISIS. Hamas is a terrorist organization, and Zionism is the belief that Israel should exist.
Right.
And that's sexy to me too.
Well, it's true that the rest of the cast and hundreds of people who work on the show can't be held to blame for the horrifying racism and hatred that a couple of their main cast members have.
Just when you think you know people, they disappoint you in ways you never thought they could. Millie commented underneath this post saying, "Too real."
For example, Sadie Sink, despite being besties with Noah Schnapp, did reference Hannah Einbinder's speech, which said, "Fuck ICE. Free Palestine." And likewise, the people watching can't be expected to feel the same way about this show that honestly really fell apart and has been an absolute trash fire after its second season.
Jim, where's Jim?
Before you start screaming about how you're running up some hills and you want to make a deal with God, can you honestly tell me what the side quests were from season 4 of the show? Like, yeah, Vecna and Eleven and that already super incredible song by an artist who is actually a groundbreaking visionary reminded you of something else that's really good and original, so it forces you to love something that's doing nothing beyond reminding you of that. Like most people who watched it, I really enjoyed season 1 of the show. It kinda came out of nowhere and wasn't overhyped or advertised into oblivion as some much-watched TV experiences coming exclusively to Domination flicks are. It was this obscure, fun little horror sci-fi show that you took a chance on and immediately wanted to run and tell your friends about. The characters were charming. The references to Dungeons and Dragons was a core part of the plot, not just a handful of memba berries, and the mysteries in the arc were well constructed to the point where you came to love the characters and the series. It was a certified banger, prestige streaming television, and like any smash hit, it became an eventual goldmine for Netflix executives. Season 2 of the series was in many ways similar to the very 80s and 90s film sequels it derived inspiration from. Not as good as the first, but still fun, expanding on the lore of the first season, wrapping up in a satisfying way that leaves room for more, but doesn't have you angry at the finale. And by this point, it had almost become a co-branded part of the network. Then season 3 shits itself out and the vision is clear. More money, more special effects, more monsters, more seizures, and neck touching, and more Russians? The whole spectacle became a joke. Less concerned with subtly showing homages to better films and video games that came before it, it instead was a bright neon corporate beast, becoming more mind-flaying, Demogorgon haunted than anything the Duffer Brothers could have originally conceived. By the time the 4th season was released, Stranger Things was no longer a show. It was a brand. It was a video game. It was a clothing line. It was a Happy Meal. Yet for some reason, it might have something to do with Kate Bush honestly being an artistic genius and some people weren't aware of her music prior to the show. A lot of people thought it was a complete return to form. Season 4 is not as hated as much as Season 3, and did the J.J. Abrams trick albeit successfully this time, of retconning a supreme villain who is actually orchestrating everything from the beginning of the series the entire time. Now look, the scenes building up to his reveal, the performance by Jamie Campbell Bower, and the eventual final battle with Max in the Upside Down are all really fun. It's probably the very reason you have a visual memory of them when you try to recollect the season, but that doesn't make the rest of it great. And the best parts of the fourth season could have ended the show on a satisfying conclusion. I mean, just take Max out of the coma and tie up a few loose ends, and Excelsior, you have the perfectly wrapped up show.
But there was an even greater evil that had still not been defeated. The dollar signs in Netflix's eyes.
There's nothing quite like having a new season of one of your favorite TV shows come back. Will the long-awaited and overanalyzed questions that the cliffhanger of the last season left you with finally be answered? The better the show and the longer the wait only serve to fuel a near insatiable hunger. Almost like a part of you is missing, and you can't stop thinking about it or discussing it with others. Like, where is it all going? Yeah, I had absolutely none of that for Stranger Things Season 5. Honestly, even if Season 4 was a masterpiece and hadn't answered its own mysteries and problems, and there weren't thousands of children starving to death at the time I'm writing this, that I'm supposed to think is sexy, but, like, I'm sorry, that's impossible to ignore how absolutely reprehensible that is. Let's keep in mind, the fourth wrapped up nicely in a neat little package, but then at the last possible second was like, oh, you thought it was over? That was just the mid-level boss fight, son. Now it kicks into Omega Vecna mode. And no, I'm not giving Netflix a fucking dime. They've been a scumbag multinational corporation for years who treats their employees like shit, fight unions any chance they can, don't stand up for their actual LGBTQ plus employees, but are more than happy doing rainbow washing.
It's like I could fly, you know? Like I could finally be...
So, for all of you, I dug up my 56K modem from its eternal slumber death beyond the pit of shadows and summoned the AOL Floponomicon disk to connect it to Napster, where I secured MP3s to transfer to my mini disc player. Are you excited yet for the references? The references to things you know? Are you ready to get jiggy with it? When I returned from the shores of Pirate Bay, I was shocked to learn that not only does Season 5's plot amount to, hey, everyone, you know how we totally defeated Vecna in the rolling up the hill super epic finale of extreme nostalgia fusion o-meter that finally sacrificed Eddie Munson? So yeah, we're gonna do that all over. All over again. Yeah, like we gotta get back in the Upside Down and to kill Vecna. No, this time, yeah, for real. This is for real. That was for play, but this time it's definitely going to happen. And that's not all. Will is going to be way more of a main character now, and he gets really worried and touches his neck and has painful seizures, but also references to things you love. I don't want to just be the dead corpse of a complete lack of a main character ever dying on this show, or the nostalgia porn, but I mean, come on.
Jonathan, is your receiver in any way connected to the flux capacitor?
Sorry, Mom, can you repeat that?
The
Flux capacitor.
So, for those who have no idea what the show's about but don't want to watch it and don't care if it gets spoiled for you, Will was a barely seen character in Season 1 of the show because the plot surrounds his disappearance, and when he's finally rescued at the end of the season, the audience doesn't really know much about him. Seasons 2 to 4 tried to grow the character a little bit, but he's mostly an awkward liability in the group for his constant connection to the Upside Down, the Mind Flayer, Vecna, and everything from the evil dimension that is effectively trying to take over Hawkins. To try and give him more depth, the Duffer Brothers introduce a somewhat undefined crisis of identity that most fans predicted was that he was most likely in the closet or may have a crush on his best friend.
See, you don't know and you don't even care, and obviously he doesn't either, and I don't blame him. You're destroying everything, and for what? So you can swap spit with some stupid girl? Elle's not stupid. It's not my fault you don't like girls.
I think straight people can write and have positive LGBTQ plus characters in their shows. The Last of Us Season 1, Episode 3 of the show is one of the greatest pieces of queer cinema ever produced. Robin's introduction into the show is honestly one of the best standout additions of Season 3, and her friendship with Steve while being an open lesbian is one of the most wholesome and charming parts of the show. And the series has gotten a bizarre degree of hatred from the most insecure corners of the internet, who somehow think that non-straight people existing somehow threatens the natural order of the world, or some other mindless slop. So I want to be clear. I share nothing in common with these weird freaks who can't stand every character in this show not being white or straight, because the real world isn't. But trying their best at including some LGBTQ+ characters doesn't make you immune from the criticism that the show is fundamentally tarnished by some of the actions of their main cast members. When the premise of the series is about preventing an evil force from enacting complete and wanton destruction of everything, it becomes pretty hard to ignore the direct parallels to what is happening right now in the real world. And even if we were completely able to separate the Zionism as sexy from the artist, that doesn't change the fact that the artist is one of the worst actors in this entire show.
I saw it. The Demogorgon. It's coming. It's coming for them. It's almost like a dream. I don't think it was ever truly severed. I'm scared of my mom at this point, to be honest. We have to stop him. And we have to save Derek. D&D, Mike, not real life.
It was really hard not to think that maybe I'm just being biased with my revulsion of the genocide promotion. But look, I can prove it. Brett Gelman was doing even worse stuff in the media in relation to supporting Israel's genocide, and he's noticeably the exact same. I mean, like, I was never a huge fan of his shtick, but sure. Every show needs a comedic relief, and the hyper-paranoid Jack-o'-no trades to lighten the mood makes sense. And as a smuggler in Season 5, he yucks it up just like he's supposed to. But in the early seasons, Will is mostly just a really frightened kid who doesn't speak much and just looks scared all the time. His range was limited to touch your neck, look worried, look more worried, now have a seizure, and look worried again. But in Season 5, they tried to turn him into this badass 11 2.0, and well... And like, the pieces are all there. It's the whole gang, all acting in the same ways they always did. They're just a bunch of silly kids at the end of the day, who are now played by people who are 30 years old. 30. This dude has a credit score in real life, most likely a mortgage or two. He could run for US Senate, but he's still just a zany teenager looking to impress his crush by becoming the ultimate alpha monkey, which would have been silly if they were actual teenagers, not halfway to retiring in real life. Look, there's nothing wrong with aging. I'm so old I knew what the world was like before the internet. But you also don't have to keep pretending that these are the same people. You could have made the last couple of seasons a lot more interesting than just going, you are a reporter now. You are lovable comic relief. You can't get over the one relationship you had. This isn't a new phenomenon. Shows that take place in high school that have 25-year-olds playing teenagers has always been this weird thing that Hollywood does, but like, it's so distracting to have to keep pretending everyone is just like a year or two older. These are fundamentally different people now. Not to mention, the mysteries are completely pointless this far in because everyone can see what's happening a mile away. The show has no real stakes. They never kill off the main cast. Even when they do, it's actually not real, and they're back next season. And even a side character's mother can't actually try and raise the stakes because that's too dark. So she almost died, but luckily barely survived. The show works nearly as hard at reminding you why you may have liked it at some point.
I heard Kate Bush. Is she one of your friends? You could say that.
Rather than actually doing anything interesting or original to justify why you're still there.
Wait, is that Sarah Connor from Terminator 2?
It's basically speedrunning the dystopian feeling that, well, it's essentially the same cast and property you once loved. It's become a victim of its own success to the point where it's unrecognizable. What's worse is this McDonald's of D&D sci-fi throwbackery is much like McDonald's, a product advertising dangerous ties to an actual extinction taking place. For the rest of the cast who aren't bad people, yeah, that really sucks for them. Like most women in Hollywood, Millie Bobby Brown has been treated with an unhealthy level of scrutiny her entire life. When she would do press tours with the other children, she was reported as being too extroverted and chatty, stealing the spotlight from the other kids when they were all just kids. The same fixation turned into an obsession with her looks as she became an adult. Caleb McLaughlin has spoken down about the racism he's experienced from the fandom, with way less people lining up to meet and greet him at conventions or press events. despite having been around on the show since season 1. His character in the later seasons is completely centered around his relationship with Max, a beloved cast member who joined the show later in season 2. And the amount of racist fan fiction based around characters who mistreat the people of color on the show, or the sexism that the women have been put through, or homophobia, is genuinely disgusting. I haven't even brought up David Harbour, or how weird he is.
The 21-year-old complained about being bullied and harassed by David on the set, filed pages and pages of allegations.
And that he's supposed to be the dynamic of this wholesome father figure with Eleven that's easily the highlight of season 2, only to turn out to be this extremely cruel creep.
According to reports, the alleged affair began during filming in 2021. After production wrapped, Harbour allegedly flew Tippett out to his home in Atlanta without Alan's knowledge. Alan reportedly discovered the affair after finding texts on Harbour's phone.
And so you might be asking yourself, lots of shows have a few shitty cast members in real life, but it's the quality of the series that matters at the end of the day. We need to separate the art from the artist. Why is everything so political? Can't we just enjoy a mindless homage to simpler times before everything was about representation or fidelity or not starving thousands of children to death? Maybe that's it. Maybe that's why the monstrous creature that Stranger Things has become feels so empty. We all fell in love with the show almost 10 years ago, and both we and the world have changed so much since then. Barack Obama was still the president of the United States, and hours of adventures were being burnt up in Uncharted 4 at Thief's End, and Netflix didn't look like they wanted to take over the entire world at the time. They just seemed like they were trying to wash the awful stain that Kevin Spacey had left them with, and take a chance on an indie horror sci-fi adventure that proved to be a smash hit. And as time went on and you grew up alongside the characters and actors, they eventually became unrecognizable to you, stained with the darkness and realities of the real world. Because you grew up. We all grew up. And that's okay. It's a good thing to mature, actually. And we can do grown-up things. Like, Dragon's Lair wasn't actually that good of an arcade game. I'm sorry. Like, yeah, the animation was super cool, but it was basically just a game of trial and error. Like, you'd have to push a button to move, and you'd either get that right or you'd die. You try going forward, and then that doesn't work, and you die. So you try it again, and then you go right this time, and it works. And then you hit attack, and you die. So you just eat up quarters the entire time figuring it out. Also, a lot of people died from AIDS back then. We can admit that we're not dozens of years away from H.P. Lovecraft's racist cat name, and don't need to always separate the art from the artist, especially when the art is part of mainstream culture. Stranger Things is a show that's still being released right now. It's culturally relevant now. What its cast are promoting relates to a genocide taking place right now. Even if it was possible to separate the Zionism as sexy washing by Netflix, the show is so bad that even the fans are wondering if the dialogue was intentionally written in season 5 to be more understandable for cell phone viewers. You know, people barely paying attention to what they're watching and glance over when there's monsters or special effects. We can do something collectively and let go of this part of our lives. We don't need mediocre corporate entertainment disguised as thinly veiled nostalgia porn to be happy by always living in the past while those same corporate overlords destroyed the planet. We don't have to pretend that a show about a partnership between the US government and a shadowy secret network of dark-funded political projects to exploit advanced weaponry for the purposes of neocolonialism was apolitical in the first place. And accept that what some people consider politics is just other people's very existence. And no, Zionism or genocide will never be sexy. Fuck you, fuck Netflix, you're cool, I'm out. So if you want a real mysterious conspiracy, you might not know this, but you're actually watching close to the 40th version of this video I've had to upload because Netflix was constantly trying to take it down. Now they'll say it's for copyright infringement, even though I not only clearly fall under fair use or fair dealing here in Canada, as appropriate credits and acknowledgements to follow will demonstrate, but we both know it's because the overlords at Netflix land want to silence me. Because my speech is dangerous. I'm a threat to their entire sick and twisted organization, and if you true believers can help secure my freedom, then we can battle the elites together in the battlefield of ideas. Even if ads are running, it's most likely this video isn't generating revenue for me or the people who help make this content possible, and it's thanks to Patreon supporters that we can actually do this. If you join for as little as $1, it unlocks exclusive bonus content, I've currently got a music video I just finished creating that highlights how all of our heroes growing up had one common enemy. To find out what it is, head on down to patreon.com/theserfs. That's patreon.com/theserfs. These movies would not be possible without the support of our executive producers, Political Papi, Monty Mondi, Words Greenwood, Riley and Anna, Sebastian Demmel, Omni, Roller Dragon, White 185, Preston Kroll, Anna Loves Riley, Comrade Junkie, Tigwick, Period, Stellar Gwyn, Bobby Lasers, Doug Caddy, Addercap, Hagbard Celine, Soulcar, Everything Important, Blue, and a huge thank you to everyone else whose names you see on the screen right now. The show would not be possible without them. And once again, if you have $1 to spare, go check out patreon.com/theserfs.